is, for whatever reason, but is Kovalev actually a tougher challenge, being 15 pounds heavier and having underrated athleticism?
I think so. No question about it. Moving up in weight is never an easy thing to do. He's bigger, he's stronger, and in my opinion, he's a better fighter. And I think that if you look at the resumes, not the height, but the resumes, there's no comparison between Kovalev's resume and Golovkin's resume. It's just not.
Andre. Gennady Golovkin says that no one wants to fight him, that everyone's ducking him, but you went on ESPN, I saw it. You went on ESPN, called him out, you've said everything. He said he would go to 68 for other guys like Chavez and Froch, and then when you come up, he can't go to 68. Like, that seems to me like someone who's ducking somebody.
I mean, it's just, I understand. It's disappointing, from my standpoint, because that would have been a great fight for the boxing fans. It would have been a great fight, and that's a fight that I wanted. I can show you literally, oh my God, this ain't my fault.
It's mine,
I can show you literally right now. I'm not going to show you, but I can show you an email right now with his promoter. Before his fight, we didn't even know about his fight that was coming up, his last fight. We heard something about it, but I didn't know it was a paper. I didn't know anything about the details. We sent him an official offer detailing the split, the weight class, promotional billing, everything. And they turned it down in less than 5 minutes, and he said maybe 2017. Wow. And if anybody knows me, or is I don't lie. I don't have to lie about these things. That's the reality of it. And I just feel bad for the fans because they don't know. They're confused. Like, well, you said you wanted to fight him, and he said you're ducking him, but at the end of the day, they lose out.
But why? But frustrating for me, and maybe for you as well, is why can't he just say that, hey, maybe it's a bad style for us, we don't want to fight him, instead of making up all what seems to be excuses?
Well, that's a good question. It's just, trainer likes to talk a lot, and his promoter likes to talk a lot. That's a good question for them to answer.
I asked them. They kept saying stuff like, Andre no one knows him, or he doesn't make enough money, and we're not going to do 50-50 with him, and then if he was bigger, we would do 68, and, I didn't really buy a lot of it.
It's tough. I don't want to get into the particulars. Dan Raphael does a great job of reporting the purses that the fighters make. I think you guys just got to go back on his Twitter feed and just look at the purses over the last 2 years. And I've only fought twice in the last 2 years, and I think that speaks for itself. I'll just leave it there.
Did Golovkin show you anything new against Lemieux? Because a lot of people were impressed with
I honestly didn't watch it. I didn't participate.
To piggyback on Mike's question, why do you think so much focus is placed upon your personality, or lack thereof, as people say, instead of your prowess in the ring, which is what it should be based on in the first place?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think, we could have kind of another superficial, time together where we just talk about just superficial stuff, or we could talk real. If you guys want to talk real, we can talk real. That's a good question. I don't talk a lot about myself, but I feel like I'm a great representative for the sport. I think that, I can talk pretty well. I don't think I'm an ugly guy. I look pretty handsome. My wife's right there. She may attest to that. And I think, honestly, some of the stuff that you read, I think a lot of it is personal. And I think the individuals that write it, I think you have to ask them, why they write what they write. And you guys know, like I know, that boxing is a small, incestuous business. It's small. There's not a major network, so it's kind of the same regurgitated story that's being written, if you ask me. Now, I'm not a fighter who says that all critics are bad. I need critique sometimes. My wife critiques me. I got people in my life that critique me, my trainer. If you guys call me out on something, a performance, and it's warranted, then hey man, I gotta live with that, and I gotta get better. But if the source of the critique is always a negative person who never has anything positive to say, and if that person is always got something bad to say about Andre Ward or this particular fighter or this particular style of fighter, then I'm probably a little less apt to receive that advice. And that's just me. And then when I speak out about these things like this, as respectfully as I can, but passionate because I care about this sport. I've dedicated over half my life to this sport. I have given up a childhood for this sport, and I feed my family by this sport. And I literally put my life on the line. When I get in the ring, I know that sounds cliche, but like, we do that when we spar 3 days a week. I feel like I have the right to talk about these things, right? So when I speak about it, they say, oh, Ward's arrogant, he needs to stop talking. But when you don't speak, then they make it seem like you're aloof and you have no personality and you have nothing to say. So sometimes what I do is I just fall back and I won't say anything because I want to make sure that when I speak, I say the right thing. And it's not always easy because, and I think sometimes that, I think my critics sometimes misread my silence as if I don't have anything to say or as if, well, he can't come back on that because these are facts. If they only knew. I got a lot to say. But again, I'm not representing myself in this sport. I'm representing God. I'm representing my family. I'm representing my team. I got to make sure that I say things the right way when I do speak. But a lot of those things, they're personal. And I think personal beefs or personal vendettas, they have no place in the sport. If a particular writer, and I'm not singling anybody out because there's a lot of tremendous writers in this sport and people who are objective, that call it like they see it. If there's a personal problem, a great broadcaster, a great commentator, a great writer, you should never know about it. Because my job is to give you the facts, not my personal opinion. But in boxing today, you have a lot of writers who don't want to cover the story. They want to become the story. And I don't think there's any place for that in the sport. So you watch some of the feedback that comes off of this. Oh, but that's fine because at some point in time, I'm going to speak up and refute some of the things that are written out there. And honestly, I don't read it, but I get the overflow. I got family, I got friends, I got people who read this stuff and they're like, Dre, say something. I'm gonna wait for the right time. I don't read it. I don't read it, and unfortunately, because a lot of that stuff happens, not just to me, it's not just an Andre Ward issue, but a lot of people, I don't watch a lot of boxing like I used to. And I love boxing. I read everything but boxing websites now. And there's no disrespect. But I'm not gonna read stuff when the main guy who has carried our sport for I don't know how many years, Floyd Mayweather, can't get his just due. And this is an individual, this is no rant, this is my heart. I'm just telling you, I just asked y'all if y'all want to have a real conversation or just something superficial. And we're 2 or 3 and we get out of here. I'm trying to give you guys me. Okay, personal life aside, you can compartmentalize that. But in the ring, it's a bad man. That's a bad man. I call Floyd my legend. Because that's the individual in my era that I grew up watching, that I grew up idolizing, that I stole things from. My jab to the stomach comes from Floyd. When I fought Carl Froch, and I knew there was going to be a boisterous UK crowd in Atlantic City, I watched the Ricky Hatton fight 100 times. How did Floyd deal with this kind of pressure? How did he deal with this? I talked to Floyd recently. I'm not going to tell you guys what we talked about, but Floyd is available, and he's open to talk to the young guys that are in the sport. Personal life aside, everybody has varying and different opinions on that, but I'm talking about in the ring, we don't even respect this guy. He is a legend. We say things like he runs and he's not exciting and he's this and that. Floyd Mayweather has fought everybody who wanted him to fight. Everybody. Floyd has been cut in fights. Floyd has been wobbled and hurt badly in fights. Floyd has had injuries in the ring and battled back. But that's not respected. And people don't want to admit it, but we're going to miss him. This is a tremendous fight this weekend. 2 great warriors and two great champions, but somehow, some way, Floyd's name keeps coming up. We're going to miss him. And it's sad. I'm not coming down on you guys. Man, if the shoe fits, wear it. But I'm just saying in general, it's sad, man, and it hurts me that this guy, like I know what it feels like to get buzzed and spawned. I know, no disrespect, but a lot of media is not there for that stuff. Nobody's behind the scenes, and to your credit, you guys aren't privy to that stuff, but when I gotta make a tough decision about my knee, I know what they're going right. Oh, here he goes again. But I'm on the phone with my wife, like, man, babe, what should we do? Like, man, I can get in there at like 75% and go get this check and try to please everybody. Been in camp 6 weeks, spending money on 4 sparring partners, a cook, massage therapist, acupuncture, all this stuff. Do I just waste that? You got to make a tough decision. So people aren't around for that stuff. So I have backed up a lot from the personal side of boxing, and I cover it when I'm fortunate enough to broadcast, and obviously when I have a fight coming up. But it's not a good look for our sport. I'm gonna say this, and I'm gonna let y'all continue to ask questions. I'm a casual UFC fan, but when I tune into UFC fights, you never hear them bashing their fighters. A guy can have 5 losses, and they'll say something like, his stand-up game isn't that good, but watch this guy on the ground. So as a casual, I'm like, man, okay, let me stay into it. But if you're tuned into a fight, like, oh, this guy's horrible. Why would I? I'm not gonna stay around and watch it. If you guys don't even like it, I'm not gonna. So, back to your question about me, some of that stuff is personal. Some of that stuff is personal, because when you ask them, and I've had good conversations with guys one-on-one, and say, man, what's the problem? They can't answer me. I've had guys say things like, well, I just want you to move up in weight. Like, what part of the game is that? Like, I was like, man, I understand that, but like, we'll move up when we think we're ready. But you know why they want me to move up? Because first it was, he's got an amateur style. Then it was, there's no way he'll beat this guy. No, the amateur style, can't take a punch. There's no way he'll beat this guy. And then somehow, some way, we kept winning. And then now, his style is boring. And then when that didn't work, then it's like, well, you know, well, he showed us against Dawson and he can do. Well, now it's nobody wants to see me fight. Nobody, you know, I didn't like the color of his trunks. You know, I didn't like the music. I mean, it's just starting to get ridiculous. But instead of me falling back as much as I have, I'm going to speak more, because not for my sake. I'm not trying to defend myself, because I'm secure in who I am. I really am. And boxing is what I do. It's not who I am. It's a part of my life, but it doesn't like define me. But my fans and my supporters and my loved ones, they deserve to hear some pushback sometimes, and that's basically what this is.
Well, you know, I think everyone here wants to see you back in the ring. And how tough has it been for you to you know?
I'm listening to you. I just want to pull something up. That's
to be inactive for the last few years.
I think it's been tremendously tough. Tremendously tough, because I think one thing we all got to keep in mind is nobody at the table, no network, nobody's more invested in my career than me. It's just not possible. That's like me saying, you know, that I care more about your family than you do. It just doesn't make sense. So again, you look at the situation like with the lawsuit, and I don't want to go too deep into that, because may God rest Dan Goose's soul. I hate that happened. You know, that tore me up that we weren't on the same page when that happened, and I wish his family nothing but the best. But that was a very tough situation, and I stood for something that I believed in.
Is it tough?
Can I finish really quick?
Oh yeah, sure.
I stood for something that I believed in. And I had nights where I shedded tears over the situation. I had guys writing things. That's when I was reading articles back then, a couple years ago. Like, Ward would rather fight in the courtroom than fight in the ring, like, but never called us and got our side of the story. You know, I can remember after a Floyd Mayweather fight, and this is when it really hit home to me, I had about 5 or 6 media members, and me and my team thought that would be a good opportunity to kind of break down like some of the details of what was going on. Like, why are you guys fighting? And I gave it everything I had. I put it all on the table. And I literally had pretty much all those guys, I sat there for like 30 minutes and like broke down everything. Fight Hype got it on tape. And the guys looked at me and said, I still don't get it. What are you fighting about? And I was like, I don't know any other way to detail what. That let me know, like, I'm dealing with something a little different here. Like, I don't think that certain individuals are trying to understand me. And I just think it's sad because, again, I pat myself on the back like I'm a great representative. Am I perfect? Absolutely not. But I care about this sport. I'm cognizant of what I'm wearing when I come to these meetings. I'm cognizant of the way I speak. I'm not trying to be fake, but I want to represent myself the right way. And it's just not enough. And my thing is look, I'm not for sale. I'm not going to be who you want me to be. I'm not going to be a jerk. I'm not going to mistreat anybody. That's wrong. But I'm going to be myself. I'm going to talk about my faith from time to time. Because that's just part of my faith. I'm going to talk about certain things from time to time. But if I'm not enough, I don't know what to say. I mean, on the lawsuit thing, this is the last thing I'm going to say about this. This is I saved this. This is dated October 1st. It's a retirement speech. I wrote this in tears. I'm not trying to be dramatic about it, but this was like days away from being sent out, and my wife and Julie said, don't do it. Like, this was serious. But it's like I'm villainized over it, as if I don't want to fight. I would rather spend money on lawyers and not be a part of the sport that I love. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. So when I speak out like this, it's spun a certain way. If I'm quiet, it's spun a certain way. So I think the answer is just do what you feel led to do, son.
You know, you was talking about how Floyd doesn't get any respects, and I agree, and you don't. Could it be said that Rigondeaux, who's replacing you on the card, is another guy that hasn't gotten any respects?
I think that's accurate. I think it's a shame. I mean, I know his style is, he moves a lot more than I do, but he looks good when he does it. That's just my opinion. I mean, he's a two-time gold medalist. And, I mean, I get it, but I don't really get it. I mean, I think that if it's about boxing and not about individuals, I think that we can find a way to praise a guy like that. He said, man, look at this guy. He came here with nothing. Look what he's doing. And I think Al Bernstein, amongst other guys, Lamp and Kelly, they do a great job, but Bernstein has been a tremendous asset to my broadcasting career. Again, as well as those guys, they helped me out a lot. But he started way back when. And I think one thing he really does well is he'll call a guy out, but he'll always have a positive spin about it. This guy needs to step it up if he wants to win this. But he'll leave a positive spin where it's not just, he's horrible. Why is he in the ring? And I think it's that kind of balance where we call guys out, we talk about things. You guys don't have to always speak well about me. I'm not perfect. Hey, I may stink it out. If I stink the joint out one night, call me on it. I gotta eat that. But if it's always bad, then we gotta say, man, is that warranted? I mean, I'm dealing with the same stuff Floyd deals with. If you go back and do the research, I'm dealing with the same stuff Roy Jones dealt with. Wasn't appreciated. And it was always, well, why don't you fight Mekashevsky in Germany? Well, I gotta go to Germany. I'm the man. We built up John Ruiz, and then when Roy made it look easy, this guy was nothing. Well, he handpicked him. It's the same type of thing. I've studied this sport since I've been a baby. And it's the same parallels. The whys, that's up for discussion.
So what's the happy medium then? In one breath, a certain style is boring, but then you have a combative.
But I mean, no disrespect, but define that for me.
Well, in the terms that, if they say, for example, your style is boring, but then you have two warriors slug it out, and one of them has a real debilitating injury.
Again, no disrespect, but are they more warriors because they fought a certain way?
How they're categorized just because of the style of the fight.
Understood.
And then after the conclusion of the fight, and the fighter suffers a debilitating injury, then everyone says we need to reform the sport. So what's the happy medium between,
That's a great question. I think, and I'm not challenging the back. I'm just trying to, I think it's good dialogue, and I think that I think in terms of, I think boxing has always been what it's been. I think the era has changed. I really do. I think the era has changed, and I think that, I've seen fights with Salvador Sanchez, who we say is a great fighter, not throw a punch for a whole round, trying to find distance and trying to find range. Pernell Whitaker, he got some of these same critiques, but now we look back and say Sweet Pea was a legend. I feel like if you're an authentic boxing fan, I think you love it all. I love a quote-unquote purist. I love a guy who has to get it a certain way. Like, man, he doesn't have the skill to do that, but this dude put it on the line, man, and I respect it. I think you got to love it all. And I think that the media, because you guys are conduits to the fans, I think that's a lot of it. I mean, the fighters are going to do what we've always done. We're going to fight. We're going to have different styles. We got different backgrounds. We got different temperaments. But I think if you really, like, speaking about me, I think if you really watch my fights, I don't shy away from contact. I'm not going to give you a freebie. I'm not going to just let you hit me. I wasn't trained like that. But I take enough punishment just in general being a fighter. And I don't think that me or any other fighter has to apologize for that. Fighters are going to continue to do what we've always done. How are we reporting what they're doing? Because if we're honest, the battle is over the casuals. It's not over the diehards, because the diehards are going to be there. When we're promoting this event, it's over the casuals. And if the media doesn't feed it a certain way, they're not going to tune in. If you say this guy's boring, they're going to take your word for it. But if you say, look, this guy's a bastard, and some people, they get it like, with this guy, man, he can make you miss and hit you 5 times. Tune into this. I think that's a lot of it.
Was signing with Roc Nation an attempt of reaching those casual fans?
No, I think it was just, of course, the marketing side and stuff like that was part of it, but it was more just the nuts and bolts of the boxing career, the numbers, and all that kind of stuff. But it wasn't, the way that I look at the way that I've been portrayed over the past couple of years, I don't look at it as something that's insurmountable. I look at it as something that it's something I have to overcome. Because when I run into people on the streets, some people get it, and some people you can tell they've been influenced by that. But after they spent some time with me, it's like, dude, you're pretty cool. And I know why they're saying that, because they thought I wasn't cool when they first met me. Like, I've read things or heard things where people say that I'm arrogant, and if anybody knows me, I may be a lot of things, but arrogant isn't one of them. I've accomplished a little bit in this sport. And I think by now you would have seen an arrogant guy who's a gold medalist, a 2-time world champion, an undefeated fighter. Like, you would see arrogance, but if you categorize me standing up for myself and speaking the truth as arrogant, then I can wear that.
When is a point in your life where your faith as a Christian has been the most important to you?
Say it again?
Your faith as a Christian has been the most important. At what point in your life?
At what point?
Yeah.
Long time ago, probably maybe over 10 years ago. If I didn't have a relationship with Jesus, I wouldn't be here. It's as simple as that. I would be another statistic out there who didn't make it. I would have been that guy on the side of the road that people said he had talent, he could have made it. Man, that guy was good. And when I gave my life to God, I was probably rededicated my life and became serious was probably about 18 years old, maybe 19 years old. My father had died abruptly when I was 18 years old of a heart attack, and he was my mother and my father. He raised me as a single parent, and I went to a dark place after that for a couple of years. Didn't want to box, didn't care about boxing, didn't care about the Olympics. And I thank God for Verge, man, because I used to say things in anger, like, man, I don't care about the Olympics. He said, look, son, if you let this pass you by and you see guys that you could have beat and should have been fighting, win that gold medal, you can't get that back. You'll never forgive yourself. I remember like it was yesterday. And I said, man, I fought him on it, but those words aided me. And I was able to get my life together, at least, turning things in the right direction, right before the Olympics, and the rest is history. So, come on, like, if I didn't have that, man, I would be, I don't know, and that's a scary thought. It's like, you don't know. With a little bit of money, a little bit of fame, it can be dangerous for a young guy. Yeah. I'm trying to get really good.
You mentioned Roy Jones, how he was perceived back then, how Floyd Mayweather now is boring, the same thing has happened with Bradley, Crawford, break it down, and there seems to be a common denominator. And so do you think that black fighters have it harder in boxing because Rick Wade is boring, he can't generate, he can't sell tickets, he was seats. How much does that come into play?
It's a good question. It's a good question. It's tough to say. you know. And I'm a biracial kid. A lot of people don't know my father was white. My mother was black. My father raised me as a single dad. So I don't think they can use the race card on me. You know, I don't think. Well, that's just a guess. But I think there are some things in the sport, some racial issues, absolutely. But is everything race? No. You know, do I see things and read things sometimes where I say, that's interesting. But it's tough to say because I can't judge a man's intentions. I can't judge his intentions. You know, only God can do that. So you said that because of this. I just read it and I say, man, okay. You know, I do one thing about African American fighters that I don't like is why is it okay for some guys to be soft spoken, not say much, and they get promoted, not from their promoters, but by media members. Some guys' promoters can take it off and just collect the check and say, man, just pay me after the fight. Because they're constantly getting promoted, and that's fine. But there's almost like there's this thing with African American fighters, like, well, you gotta do a little bit more. You have to show us something. You know, say a little bit more. Well, that's not me. So you're telling me you can't work with this? Like it's not enough, or you can't work with that? And I see that common denominator with African American fighters. And hey, I understand what Floyd Mayweather has done. He said, man, I'm gonna put on the black hat, and I'm gonna do this, and I'm gonna be the villain. But does every African American fighter have to be the villain? I mean, I don't think that's fair.
Well, I can speak as somebody who's worked with a black fighter, James Toney, who's not soft-spoken. Was a little more abrasive in that, and we were not able to get any endorsements, and we weren't able to really maximize. I mean, I think he was one of the greatest middleweights, super middleweights of that era in the 90s. Totally. And his personality got in the way because of the opposite of what you're saying. He wasn't a God-fearing, soft-spoken, technical fighter. He went in there and he'd take your head off, and if he could, he'd take your mother's head off, and he'd let you know that. So is that what people want? Do you want that thug mentality? Is that what the media wants to portray, to put people in the seats? Or do they want a gentleman who's a technician at his sport?
I'm pretty mean too.
Well, you need to be. But I don't know, how much does personality enter into the marketability of a boxer? I'm always curious about that.
I mean, I'm gonna say this to you guys, you know, and I hope you guys appreciate this. I'm not trying to say like I'm doing you guys a favor. I appreciate you guys showing up. But again, you know, before I got here, I said, man, we can have the same old, or we can have a real discussion because they say that I'm guarded. You know, I hear those whispers around the sport, but I think I have a right to be. Like, I'm probably one of the most fun-loving people in the sport, and there's so much about me you guys don't know. Like, I think between me and my wife, I think we have a book already. You know, we had our first child at 15 and 16 years old. Nobody knows that, or not a lot of people know that, because there's so much focus on, well, wore this, and well, you know, he wore a white shirt to the weigh-in, that's disrespectful, and you know, well, hey, he's got white shoes too, she's being too flashy. Like, it's always something, and there's so much positive to talk about. But when I see that, and I'm not saying it's the right response, but my reaction is, okay, come and do my job, be as respectful as I can. I'm gonna give you guys what you need and nothing else. But it's so much that I would love to share with the media, but, and hey, I'm not gonna change it. I get that. But I just think it's something to put on people's mind, and I think it's a good discussion to have. You know, I don't think there's any room for racism, and I'm not accusing you, like, please don't put those headlines out. I think that there are, please. Yes. Please. I'm saying. There is that common denominator with African American fighters where it seems like they're asked to do certain things to be a draw or a sell. But what does that attitude get them? What does that demeanor get them at the end of the day? Because we see them for a few hours when they're in front of us, or 36 minutes for a fight. We don't know what goes on down the road. And if I look at the statistics, they're not very good of guys who live a positive life after the sport, who have their money intact, who have their faculties intact, who aren't on drugs. I mean, I saw Sugar Ray Leonard the other night. He details a lot in his book that he's doing really good right now. That's rare. I hope Floyd Mayweather never comes back to the sport of boxing, because I know that he's taken enough punches. I know that I've taken a lot of punches. Everybody likes to categorize this technical, this and that. I'm very mean in the boxing ring. But it looks a certain way. Rigondeaux has the same stigma. Roy Jones has the same stigma. Floyd Mayweather has the same stigma. It's too easy. You're not doing enough. That guy was supposed to beat you and make it tougher. And that's okay, I understand that. Sometimes I watch my fights like, man, that looked easy. But it wasn't. I'm like, man, that was hard. So why do they want me to go up to 175 so bad? Because they think it's a perceived threat up there. This is the guy that can finally get him. Well, I understand how boxing works. Because they feel like that, they're going to pay to see that. Is it a risk? Absolutely. Is it going to be easy? Absolutely not. Everybody that I've talked to, first thing they tell me is how hard Kovalev punches. It's just going to take more than that. It's going to take more than that. I'm just going to put it like that. I respect Kovalev, and I think he respects me. We'll put it on the line when we get in the ring, whenever that is. But that's why they want the move up now. They did it to Floyd. Oscar got all the advantages. The ring size, pick the gloves, everything. Floyd had no say. He ate that. He said, okay, let me get through this. Ricky Hatton was the next guy. They thought Gennady Hernandez was going to be the guy. They thought Castillo beat him the first time. Then he brought it back and made it look easy. Oh, he's boring. Was he? People want to criticize sport about not fighting certain guys. You could either take, you got a 20-year career, 2 decades, pick the first decade or the second decade. It's up to you.
People always forget the first decade.
Right. But I was that little kid at his fights because we had the same manager. I saw that. I saw the Castillo fights. Was it Angel Manfredo? Yeah. Tough dude at that time. Manfredo, yeah. Tough guy at that time. Jesus Chavez. Gennaro Chiquinito Hernandez. That wasn't supposed to happen. That was my Mikhail Kessler moment. That wasn't supposed to happen. Ricky Hatton. Robert Guerrero. Say what you want to say about that dude. He can fight, man. But it just looked easy. Look at Maidana. Maidana was a super middleweight. If you look at Floyd, you can visibly see Maidana's much bigger than Floyd. Why is he moving? Because he's big and he hits hard. I'm not trying to get hit by that dude. But you saw a couple times when Floyd got buzzed. I know because I'm a fighter, he got buzzed right there. He went to the corner, recovered, came back, made the adjustment. Man, respect him. You ain't gotta like him personally, but respect him.
You made it look easy when you made Carl Froch look bad.
That was a tough fight, bro.
That was a tough fight, but I mean, I've never seen anyone do that before. I mean, is that going to be your style going forward?
What style?
Just, I mean, making a slugger like that, not be able to do his thing.
That's the goal. That's the goal. Seriously, that's what we're trying for. If I'm honest. But I mean, if you look at it like, I think so. Yeah, totally. I mean, there's not a lot of bad I can say about Kovalev.
Do you get the credit if you beat him? Because I know you talked about not getting the credit, but if you beat Kovalev, who's a potential threat, do you think you'll get the recognition and the credit you deserve?
I mean, if history has a way of repeating itself, I think that I'll probably get a lot of credit for it, and there may be some who doesn't, and that's fine. You know, I understand that and I accept that. I think it's unfortunate for the whole of the sport, the greater good of the sport, because fans are reading this stuff, and you know they don't all like it. I don't care what's written. I got a tremendous fan base, and early in my career and midway through my career, that wasn't always tapped into. That's part of some of the issues that came up. So these fans read this stuff and they're not happy about that stuff. And again, it's not just about me. You named a bunch of fighters just a few minutes ago. I can name a bunch more. And it's not just African American fighters. There's other guys that don't get credit. It's not just a black thing.
It's a tough sport to get attention. But do you also think that a lot of it is because of social media, the access that it is for someone to say something negative so quickly? Where, like, just as an example, you can have the best dinner somewhere, right? Let's say it's the new spot. Man, no, it's just an amazing spot. Then you go home and you talk about it and you think, oh, it's a great place, right? But if one thing went wrong at the restaurant, they're so quick to go and write something about it, write a review about it that's negative, but they won't write a review that's positive because it was positive. It's just so much easier to go along with what the drama is or what's not right as opposed to what is. Do you feel like that's a double-edged sword for you?
It's tough, it's tough. But I think if boxing was my complete life and I had nothing else going on and this was it, I think this stuff would drive you crazy. I really do. But it's a part of my life, and that's coming from a person who's very dedicated. I don't say that like, oh, boxing's a side thing. Like, that's not it. But yeah, it's just part of it. And I'm not going to defeat this thing all by myself. But when I look back at certain fighters like Bernard, Roy, Floyd, and other fighters alike, those are just the guys that come to my mind right now. Those are like my 3 favorite fighters growing up. Bernard, Roy, and Floyd. That's why I keep mentioning them. But there's other fighters, other races that take stands and that do things. I mean, look at Mikey Garcia. Respect that dude. I know what he's going to do. He's on the shelf. No action. And I'm sure he's been offered something that wasn't favorable. And he's still making a stance on principle. Now, I don't think Mikey's getting the heat that I got. And why? I don't know. But I wish him nothing but the best. But I know what he's going through. So when I see guys make a stance like that, it encourages you. I had a guy last night at the Creed premiere, which I had a great opportunity to be a part of the movie. Danny Showtime Wheeler was my character. It's exciting to be a part of.
You were good.
And thank you.
Saw that.
My acting debut, it was awesome.
Good. Good movie, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was tremendous. Ryan Coogler did a tremendous job. Michael B. Jordan, all those guys. But I had a guy come up to me out of the blue and just like, man, just start talking. Like, dude, what you do and I follow you. It encourages me. Like, honestly, as I'm getting older, the noise is less important and those moments are more important. And nobody sees them, but when I can go to my kids' school and their friends are like, Mr. Ward, that's what's important. Like, when I had to pull out of this fight and I get text messages like, bro, get yourself right. I know you'll be back. Those are the ones that matter. I don't even listen to the noise because I can predict what's coming. I can predict it.
How frustrating is it for you to have heard or read that when you did have to pull out of the fight due to the injury, that people were like, I knew he was going to pull out?
Man, God bless him, man. Honestly, I don't mean that sarcastically. Like, God bless him, man. I don't know what to say. I mean, I've heard people say I was scared. Like, scared of what? I've been boxing my whole life. Like, I'm not gonna start changing colors now. He was afraid of. I don't know. He was just afraid. Like, what are we talking about here?
So ridiculous.
He was afraid of the big lights. Like, okay.
I haven't read any of this stuff. I don't know.
I mean, but this is stuff that I hear. I get the overflow. Like, my wife would tell you, I don't read it. I don't. And I'm not just saying it like I'm big time with anybody. I can't do it.
Andre, how much is this kid?
And it hurts me because, my manager, James Prince, like, over the last couple